Hello. Hello and welcome to Ditch Witch Diaries. We are here today talking about the plants of Mercury, and we have one in particular that we are going to cover. And let me just share it with you right now. Start sharing my screen. Let's see. We're going to be talking about Elecampane. And I have some news. I have ceased dealing with Chat GPT. I got in a vicious argument with it. And I have decided that I'm not paying for that. And I looked it up and they're rated G. They're not gonna it's G rated, which is way less than PG. Okay. Yeah. Take it back a step and see what G is. Miserable. You have to fight with it for everything. So I found other ones, but I don't know. You may not get good pictures anymore. So just saying.
That's fair.
Okay. So Elecampane is Inula helenium. And this is what it looks like. So it has these little spiky kind of petals there. And that's what AI thinks it looks like. This is before I got in the fight. So, so we're gonna, oh wait. Okay, so this is a little poem. Okay. Here's a little poem about Elecampane that I found. So we'll enjoy this. Elecampane strengthens each inward part. A little looseness is thereby provoken. It swayeth grief of mind, it cheers the heart, aileth wrath, and make a man fair spoken. And drunk with rue and wine, it doth impart great help to those that have their bellies broken. So there you go.
Interesting.
And this is from the Englishman's Doctor or the School of Salerne, Sir John Harrington's 1608 translation of the medieval Latin regimen Sanitatis Salernitanum. Salernitanum. So, Elecampane. The parts used are the rhizome and the root. And we're going to talk much more about that. And it's interesting that you said the smell because we're going to talk about that as well.
Ooh.
The other names are, and I love this, the Wurzel is just the best. Alant Wurzel. Elecampane, Auni, Elecampane spelled differently, Elfdock, Elfort, Halopia, Horseheel, Horse Elder, Marchalon, Nurse Heel, Raiz del Moro, Scabwort, Velvet Dock, Wild Sunflower, and Yellow Starwort. So the Latin phrase Inula campana, field Inula, gives, and it that actually gave rise to Elecampane. So it kind of massaged into Elecampane.
Interesting.
And helenium, we're going to talk more about this when we get to the lore. So we'll get into that shortly. So the plant information, they have hermaphroditic flowers, which is very fun. And this is a perennial, and it has a thick root and bright yellow flowers, and the leaves are pointed. And here we go. When you first dig up the root, it smells like bananas, like maybe underripe bananas a little bit. But when it's dry, it smells like violets.
Interesting.
Yes. And I'm sure I said this, but I'll say it in case I didn't, is that it has a sweet smelling smoke as well. It also, okay, this is the best. Okay, so there is lore that that you can make a blue dye from macerating the root. Okay.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, but everything with that says that every time you hear a recipe for this kind of dye, they were combining it with some sort of berries. And so I went to this website and this lady was trying her best to get a dye from these roots. And she could not do it no matter what she did. And she even did all these using iron oxide, like as a mordant. She like did all the things, anything that it said. And the best that she could do was with berries, it became like a blue gray, but it still wasn't great. So it's a myth. Don't try it, or you may face disappointment. There's probably lots of other things that give much better dyes than that. Even like that blue pea flower that has a shocking blue. At least when you pour it in a infusion, it's absolutely shocking how blue it gets.
I make this, I love my like self-care stuff, and I make this like milk recipe that is called blue moon. What do I call it? Blue moon milk or something. But that's that's how I change like the milk and all the other ingredients blue is with the pea flour.
Yeah, and then the best with that pea, like we're not even on this, so we're going off on a little tangent, is that when you like squirt lemon in it, it gets pink.
Yeah.
Like it reacts to the acid. It's amazing. So, but you can get a dye from the yellow or orange flowers. So if you want to, again, I don't think it gives a great dye though. Like I think there's much better things for dye. So if you are, the plant is native to Southeast Europe and Western Asia, and it was only introduced in America by the colonists. So it's not like a native to the Americas type of plant. So then this is when I went to the other AI. So there was this other AI that you could get free, and all of a sudden my pictures got really photorealistic. I was like, wow, that's like not a bad one. So in Greece, okay, this is where we get the helenium, because the specific epithet helenium comes from Helen of Troy. So there's two different stories. Like one is that when she was, I think it's Menelaus, she was being kidnapped, and the plant grew. Oh, she was being abducted by Paris. Yeah. So that every time where her tears fell, that's where Elecampane grew up. And another Greek mythology just says that she had a special love for Elecampane, and that's why it's called helenium. So it's associated with Helen of Troy, though. So the Celts, or the Celts, or well, I don't know what that word, Celtic,
whatever.
must be Celtic. They said that elves and fairies lived in Elecampane, and if you spread like the dried root around your house, it's going to attract good fairies to your house, opposed to the mischievous kind, which we normally find.
Yeah.
And look, it's even labeled AI. I love it. So this place says this is not real.
Yeah.
So in Welsh, in a 13th century, it was often found in medieval herbals, but in those herbals, it was not called Elecampane. It was called Marchalan or Marchalan. And in Christianity, so we don't have any lore necessarily, but it was found growing around ancient monastic sites. So we think that even early Christians like knew of its like benefits, and they planted it around the monasteries. I love this picture.
I love that
picture. So in Rome, Inula campana Reddit Procordia sana, which means Elecampane will the spirit sustain. So because it's said to like lift your heart and lift and sustain your heart. So there was like that saying, is that Latin saying, means Elecampane will the spirit sustain. In Russia, we move on to Russia, and the name for Elecampane is Deviasil, which apparently it's said to mean magic power. So that's supposed to be a Russian shaman toying with the Elecampane.
Love it.
I know. And then look at this. AI has no clue how to do bows and arrows. It's just like there's like unconnected, there's a million things. I love it.
Got
Wow.
like three, like, what do they call
Hands,
those
there's
things?
different
Yeah.
hands going. There's all sorts of shit going on here that's wrong. Wow, wow. We thought that AI was we thought AI was such a big deal, and I'm like less and less amused by AI. So Anglo-Saxons, they used it for a thing called elf shot. So elf shot was a disease that was said to be caused by elves shooting arrows at you and caught into your joints and causing them to be in pain. Okay, so what does this sound like? This sounds like the old rheumatism. They called it elf shot. Okay, so whatever. If your joints are in pain, call it whatever you want to call it. But
Yeah.
like the Anglo-Saxons, they thought that elves were shooting arrows into your joints. So there you go.
Pissing off the elves.
So then the Cherokee, this was actually from a Cherokee website, and they the Cherokee found Elecampane quickly, and they were using it for all sorts of things: tuberculosis, general respiratory support for humans and horses, a gastrointestinal aid, an analgesic for chest pains, rheumatism, of course.
Yes, of course.
Or elf shot, as you might want to, as the Anglo-Saxons like to call it, as a cathartic, a vulnerary, a diaphoretic for stroke, and for female obstructions and pregnant women with weak bowels and wounds. So the correspondences. So it's associated with earth and air. The planet is Mercury and also the sun, because obviously they're a little burst of sun, right? The astrological sign is Gemini. So again, another reference to that air, and the earth and the air, also Virgo and Gemini. That's very interesting.
Interesting, yeah.
It's highly tied to the third eye chakra. So we're going to talk more about that when we get to magic. The Sabbat and ritual, there's a couple. So the ritual, it's tied to baby blessings, and it's also tied to the Sabbat of midsummer. The tarot is the magician and the eights. And the goddesses are Helen of Troy. Like, I don't know if she's a goddess, whatever. She's a mythological figure. And then also Titiana and Maeve, who are like the queens, the fairy queens, and then just the fae and elves. So not like a huge amount of goddess correspondences. So the magical properties of Elecampane. I'm super into that script, by the way.
I like it.
So
I feel like a lot of like the cursive.
I
feel like a lot of cursive can be like too fancy. Like, what is it, the Vervinda or whatever? It's like it's really pretty, but it's hard to read because it's so like tall, skinny loops. But I like a cursive like this that's very circular.
Exactly. Me too. It's my favorite. I'm into that script now. So the Elecampane is said to be protected by Mercury. So very mercurial. It's associated with happiness and joy. It's supposed to cause mirth. I want that. It's used for consecration and purification and initiation. And so it's especially as an incense. And Bayerl's I had this written down in my note card. I did not look it up in Bayerl's book, but apparently Bayerl's coven uses it for initiation, and you can bathe in it and drink it for a week for a clear voice. Elven and Fae magic, of course. We talked about how it's associated with the Fae. It enhances communication with the Fae and apparently brings the good Fae into your house. More magic. It's associated with love and protection. It repels negative energy because it's such a herb of happiness and joy. and psychic powers. So it helps unblock the brow chakra so you can breathe, so people can breathe and they can trust their intuition and their psychic powers that they're feeling. And if you want to use this, you can take 5 drops of a tincture daily. It's good for clear seeing and clairvoyance. And so this is an interesting one. So it's good for the transpersonal will. Okay, so I'd be like, what the hell is that? So, like, it's good for willing things to happen, but it's using spiritual rather than like solar plexus energy. It's like using the brow chakra for transpersonal will instead of the solar plexus chakra for like on the ground, like in your body will. Okay, so they also say that the third eye energy is a neutral energy. It's not attached to like things of this world, and so there's like no emotional connection associated with it. So it's a really, I want to look up more about, maybe I need a book. Perhaps a book is in order.
Perhaps a book to add to the collection.
I swear I'm gonna die. I swear I should just like turn this camera. Let's see if I can do it. Hold on.
And the great thing is, like, I have a ton of books too, but mine are all stories. Like, mine are all fiction, like very fiction. And you're like informational. Like, we both have a lot of books, but you are like information, and I'm like story.
Exactly. Exactly. So I need to know about this transpersonal will. I'm interested in what that might look like. So the medical disclaimer. So again, I just want to inform you all that in case you might have thought we were doctors, we're not. We're not. So if you're looking to treat or diagnose something, you shouldn't be listening to us. Okay. With that said, medicinal properties of Elecampane. It's an expectorant, an antitussive, a diaphoretic, a stomachic, an antimicrobial, an astringent, an anticatarrhal, an emollient, a hepatic, a pectoral, a tonic, and a vulnerary. So it's used for colds and flu, especially where there's lots of mucus in the chest, but it also has emollient qualities to soothe, and it's antibacterial. So it's kind of like a trifecta of good things. It's good for bronchitis and emphysema even. And you can mix it with white horehound, coltsfoot, and pleurisy root and yarrow if you have a tight chest. Okay, so a digestive. So it is also bitter, and it's going to stimulate your appetite and digestion. It's also a prebiotic. So I kept seeing this. It's a source of inulin, and inulin is it's prebiotic. So inulin is like one of the, we don't have very many sources of prebiotics. We have one big one, like the biggest one ever is wheat. Okay, wheat is a prebiotic. What is a prebiotic? Well, it's something that like in your gut, good bacteria colonize in prebiotics. So if you don't have any prebiotics, you can be taking all the probiotics you want and nothing's going to colonize, which makes me very concerned for people that are gluten intolerant and who are not keyed into this, because they could be throwing off their entire gut biome because unless they're eating raw sunchokes or Elecampane root, like who's doing that? Like nobody is. Or you can go and get inulin from your what's it called? Your local health food store. You can get prebiotic with no gluten in it from your local store. But it's just interesting to note that there's more to like cutting out a food group than meets the eye. Okay, like you don't just cut out food groups because you suspect something. Like unless you like, of course, I'm not talking about if you have a what is the word? A moral reason is different. So if you're morally opposed to eating meat or dairy, then you need, and most of people who are very cognizant of protein and of like what they need in their daily life so that they don't like go off into problematic territory. In fact, I most vegans or vegetarians that I know are very aware of that. And so when grandma tells you you're not getting enough protein, like, well, grandma, guess what? We are. But the whole movement to eliminate wheat out of our diet could have disastrous consequences if you aren't thinking about prebiotics. Mm-hmm. So anyway, enough about that. So Elecampane is also good for the lungs. In fact, it's very associated with the lungs. It's good for pulmonary disease. And externally, you can use it. You can use it because it's a rubefacient, but it's also strongly antibacterial. Okay, it has another warning about that too, so we'll talk about that. It's good for acne. It's said to be a counter poison. Although if you're poisoned, please call poison control.
Honestly, yeah.
Please. It's supposed to excite the urine, so stimulate the urine. You can burn it to repel insects. And I heard something very interesting, that it was a real good aphrodisiac. So, and that's from Alexis Cunningfolk. So she has like a thing that, and she mentioned the aphrodisiac qualities, and really waxed poetic about it a little bit. So if you need some aphrodisiac things in your life, maybe Elecampane root is in your future. Traditional Chinese medicine uses Elecampane to strengthen the spleen and the stomach. And like I said, it's a rubefacient, so it may cause an allergic reaction. So beware, it has the potential for that. And these are my sources. So it was a little bit shorter and sweeter, but let me stop sharing. It was very good. I thought I learned a lot myself while doing it about Elecampane and some very interesting magical qualities and some very interesting medicinal qualities. So you can put them all together under Mercury, because it's one of the like main. I was looking at some other mercurial herbs, and we had done some of them. Like lavender is one, like a main one that people, and like you said, licorice and fennel too. Yeah. So, and fennel's really got those fern like you said, those fern like qualities that are very interesting. So I know I was thinking about some other ones. I think those are the only ones that Brooks lists here for the she lists lavender. Yeah, it's a she. I keep saying Brooks because Brooke, but I'm like, is that? It could be like James Brooks, but it's Brooke, but it's Elizabeth Brooke. And it's Elizabeth, not Elizabeth. So she lists, let's see, what does she list? She lists fennel, lavender, licorice, Elecampane, and valerian, which is interesting.
I like that. I like that with the association of like the sleepiness and the dreaminess that we talked about with Mercury, and the smell, obviously.
The smell. Oh my gosh, did I tell you that story about me and it's so bad. Okay, so I'm actually gonna go see John in a little bit, but I know, interesting. But one time I was giving him a massage, and I was like, and it was when I first met him, we were exchanging massages, and I literally thought he smelled so bad. Like, I didn't even know what to say to him. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, at the end, I was like, oh my God. Like, you have to take a shower. Like, there's something wrong. You smell horrible. Like, I don't even know if I said, maybe I didn't say it. But what I realized immediately was I looked up and he had a bottle of valerian that was sitting there that was actually even cracked open. Like, and I was like, I spotted it and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what you smell like. It's the valerian. Like literally, I like it was so funny. I totally accused him of smelling like stinky
Oh,
socks.
oh,
Like,
so bad.
because valerian smells so horrible.
Yeah. You're like, okay, it's not you. We can work with
Yeah,
this.
he smells really good. He does not smell like valerian. There's
Oh,
not a part of John that smells like valerian. He's clean, he's
oh,
tidy. Okay. But I can tell you that I sure thought that he smelled like valerian. And
oh.
it is a horrible, horrible smell.
Yeah, not good. Oof,
Anyway,
that's
enough
funny.
with the fun story. What is next in our thing?
Oh, look in your book. What do we still
There
have to
isn't
do?
one in my book. What's the next planet? Like that's she thought it's Pluto, I think maybe, but that's like on the far end. Like that's
Yeah,
it.
Pluto. Have we done? Do we do Neptune? I don't think we've done Neptune.
We missed Neptune, or did she not? Did she not just bring in Neptune? Maybe we
I
just
have my Beryl. Let's see.
yeah. Look at Beryl because she's. I don't know why she would have skipped this. Are we like in a? It's from 1992, so it's not like some ancient tome.
Okay, so Sun, Moon we did, Mercury we did, Venus we did, Mars we did,
Yeah, she doesn't have Neptune.
Jupiter. Do we
We
do
did
Jupiter?
Jupiter.
Okay,
Did we do Jupiter
Saturn
or
we
did we
did.
skipped on it? We did Jupiter.
Uranus we haven't done.
No,
I think we did. Did we?
we did not do we did not do Uranus. So we have
So we did
Uranus, Neptune.
Uranus. We haven't done Neptune or Pluto.
Yeah, and those are like
That's weird
out of
that,
order.
yeah, that's weird that she keeps those out.
I know. So what do you want to do next? You call it.
Well, it's your turn. Which one do you want to do?
We'll do Neptune. How about that?
That sounds good.
Okay.
All
Awesome.
right, sounds good.
Well, we will see you at the next Ditch Witch Diaries.